the objective for this webinar, as you all know, is ADHD about, let me share with you the screen so you can see what I listed here. About ADHD and also intervention. And there will also be a webinar tomorrow where the objective is more related to mathematics, but also having the ADHD group in mind and relating to their specific needs. Intervention will also be a part of it today. So please ask questions, give comments, because that will also be a part of the directions we go in these hours this afternoon. We have plenty of things that we want to share with you. So help us pick out the most relevant for you. My name is Gunvor Sønnesyn. I work in Kompetanse, Resource Center, a very small center in Norway. The two professionals at the moment are my husband, Hans, who's also here, and maybe if you would like to show your face.
You wanted that I should speak something too?
I think you should say hello, yes?
Yes. Well, welcome to everyone, and we are recording this one, so please hang on.
Let's have a look at where we live. We live in Norway. We live in the west coast of Norway. And of course, part of our speech is always is saying something about where we come from. Just like a picture. I'm not going to spend time on that. But we live at the foot of a big mountain. And this winter, we've had a lot of snow. This was in the Christmas holiday, actually. But what we are going to do is this. We are going to look a little bit at how can we understand ADHD. We are going to look at the diagnostic criteria in the diagnose manuals used by different categories of professional in US and Europe at least, and I think all over the world actually uses these manuals. And I recognize me for who I am and not for how I behave. As we're going to see in the former versions of the diagnosed manuals, behavior was also part of the problem and the problem categorization, the name of this category of difficulties that people may have. But not so anymore, and that's important, I think, because behavior problems can occur for all of us in special situations. And for people with ADHD, the behavior tells about their needs and their frustrations. It's not the core of that problem. To be in school is challenging. It really puts some extra demands on our attention, and we need a break. And after the break, the main topic will be intervention. How we can make the classroom better suitable, not only the classroom and the physical things, but also the way we work with children, the way they are met in the classroom. And we are going to speak also about planning application. How can we get around the problems that is typical for people diagnosed and for kids and adolescents diagnosed with ADHD? And let's have a discussion before we end the webinar at 5:30. Any comments or questions to this? Don't hesitate to break in when we are together in Zoom. If somebody speaks, we immediately hears it, and that's a good thing because that allows us to also be together in this. If not, let's go directly to one of these diagnostic manuals, the ICD, which is a medical manual used in the health systems of our countries. And for several years now, there has been a shift from the ICD-10 to ICD-11. But as you may know, a diagnosis like ADHD is in challenge, in change. It is not a fixed thing that kind of survives from decade to decade. There are always new research and new elements that demonstrates to be important. And that's why I think they have struggled with agreeing on how it's put into words in the ICD-11. But let's have a little look at the differences and pay attention and be aware of those. So in ICD-10, as you can see, they spoke about developmental disorders and behavioral disorders in a little bit particular way, and with autism spectrum disorders and ADHD related to these different categories. While in ICD-11, which is now implemented in many countries, I don't know how it is in Czech, because of course it's our each country's authorities that decides whether to stay to the old one or to use a new one. Excuse me. But in ICD-11, they speak about mental, behavioral, or neurodevelopmental disabilities. And the neurodevelopmental is a new aspect that has come in ICD-11. So it has got, let's not kind of get stuck in such a word. It means that it has to do with our brain and the development and growing, so to say, of our brain, not only at birth, but also through our lives. And these two categories, and each of them is a big category. So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, as we shall see in a moment, has a lot of specific criteria, and some of them will have to be present to set the diagnosis. We, if not any of you are doctors, we are not going to set diagnosis. But as teachers and preschool teachers and in other positions where we work with children and adolescents, it is interesting and important to know something about the diagnosis so that we can understand better the person that we are working. Another manual is called DSM, and that is more frequently used in the psychology and psychiatry outside the hospital. This is organized into different in different countries. We are not going to spend time on that, But this is also ways of identifying and give a definition of the category of problems. And in DSM, they speak about attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder, or both, when there is a combined presentation. But there could also be a predominantly inattentive presentation, where attention is the core problem, and also a predominantly hyperactive and impulsive presentation, in which the hyperactivity is the core problem. In DSM-5, there are described 9 symptoms in each of these 2 areas. And such symptoms must be observed in a minimum 6 months, and they must be, some of these symptoms are typically describing behavior that is relevant or not relevant to age and to a normal development. And that's why the relation to age is always important, and the behavior listed and that we use for describing the child's problem should be deviating from what's normal for the age. The symptoms should also be influencing everyday life of the child or adolescents, or even when we speak about adults with such diagnosis. It must be an impairment relating to everyday life, to school, and to work. And of course, the combined high for both, from both categories. And there is also a kind of a degree of the impairment and the severity of it. It could be mild, it could be moderate, or it could be serious. Maybe some of you, depending on your age, or can remember the DAMP diagnosis that they spoke about in the 60s and 70s, and probably most of you were not born at that time. But even 200 years ago, it was recognized this kind of problems with kids. The term hyperkinetic reaction of childhood was included first in the DSM-2, and now we, as I said, are at DSM-5. So there has been a development, and some elements, some symptoms have changed, some new symptoms has been focused on, but the kind of the problem, of course, have been the same all the time. DAMP, I mentioned. There have been other ways of describing it as well. A persistent pattern, and with concentration problems, and these hyperactivity and impulsivity has been creating problems in the classroom, in the kindergarten group, and also for people at work. We will make this presentation available for you, and you can study these things more in detail if you want to. You can also, of course, these documents, the ICD-11 and the DSM-5 is also available on the internet. We all know these things, don't we? with the bodily restlessness, maybe we can recognize our own behavior as well. Impulsive movements on the chair, can't sit still, scrabbling with the pencil all the time, walking around a little bit in the room, touching, tickling with, etc. We can see that in all classrooms. And all kids can have it from time to time. And the level of activity that should be really focused on, and that should be in the center of our awareness, and also with causing special focus in the teaching and in the classroom, then it must be significantly higher than usual. What we should pay attention to is that it also it is like this for adults, it can be impairing, more impairing than in others. So it doesn't have to be as problematic for the person all the time. And in particular, of course, with the grown-up person, with the person in work, with the person at college or in university or in other fields of education, it becomes also a problem for the teacher, for those who are going to be responsible for giving lessons. While in the working life, it is traditionally, at least, more of a problem for the person, him or herself. There is a recognition, at least in different areas of work life, for an employer to also adapt the conditions for the person. Slowly, they have come. All these, think before acting, interact with and disturb others. We know these persons also in the adult life, in the friend group, at work, and so on. Thomas E. Brown. This is a video. I'm not going to show it here because that requires a very good internet both with me and with you, and not to risk that it will be difficult to hear the sound. I'm going to refer to some of those things that Thomas Brown says, but we will make this link available for all of you. And I will recommend you to use it, to look at it, because Thomas Brown, he speaks about this in a very elegant manner, and he's funny to listen to, and he describes it to the point. And he also gives us some explanations.